One evening, long ago, a little shepherd boy was driving his flock home across the wide green ocean of the hills when he came across a dragon lying half out of a cave. The dragon was as big as 4 cart horses and covered with shiny blue scales. As he breathed, little flames flickered up over his nostrils. He had his chin on his paws and appeared to be enjoying the cool of the evening. He was even purring. The boy had read lots of fairy stories and knew all about dragons, so he wasn't afraid. "Hello, dragon," he said quietly, so as not to surprise the monster. The dragon made to rise politely, but when he saw it was a boy, he said severely, "Now don't you start throwing stones at me or squirting water or anything. I won't have it." "I'm not going to," said the boy, dropping onto the grass beside the beast. "I was just wondering how you were. But if I'm disturbing you, I can easily clear off." "No, please don't go off in a huff," said the dragon hastily. "I've not been here long. I do like it, but the fact is, it's a trifle dull at times." The boy chewed on a stalk of grass. "Going to stay?" he inquired. "I can't say," replied the dragon. "I'm confoundedly lazy. The other fellows are always rampaging and skirmishing and chasing knights and devouring damsels. All I want is a meal and a snooze now and then, and plenty of time to think up poetry. On the whole, I feel quite inclined to settle down here." "The only problem being," said the boy, "that you are an enemy of the human race." "I haven't got an enemy in the world," said the dragon. "Too lazy to make them." "Oh dear," sighed the boy. "Listen, when other people find out you're here, they'll come after you with spears and swords. According to them, you're a baneful monster." "Not a word of truth in it," said the dragon, wagging his head solemnly. "Now, do you want to hear that sonnet I was composing when you arrived?" "If you won't be sensible," said the boy, getting up, "I'm off home. I'll look you up tomorrow. In the meantime, do try and realize that you are a pestilential scourge and you should leave, or you'll find yourself in a most awful fix. Good night." After that, the boy spent many a pleasant evening sitting with the dragon, listening to him recite story poems of days gone by, when dragons were quite plentiful. However, what the boy had feared soon came to pass. A morning came when the boy walked into the village to find bunting and flowers hanging everywhere. The villagers were lined up along both sides of the little high street, jostling each other. The boy held a friend. "What's up?" he cried. "Is it traveling players or a circus or what?" "Haven't you heard? There's a real live dragon in a cave in the hills," replied his friend. "St. George is coming to slay the deadly beast." Just then cheering broke out as a great war horse pranced down the street, carrying St. George in gleaming golden armor. The saint halted his horse in front of the inn, assured the cheering villagers that all would be well, then dismounted and strode confidently inside. The boy made off up the hill as fast as he could go. "The game's up, dragon," he shouted as soon as he was within sight of the beast. "St. George is here, and he has got the longest, wickedest looking spear you ever did see." "Oh dearie me," moaned the dragon. "You must tell him to go away." "He can write if he likes, but I can't give him an interview. No offense to him, I'm not seeing anybody at present." "Now, dragon," implored the boy, "you've got to fight him, 'cause he's St. George and you're the dragon. Better get it over with, and then we can go on with the story poems. My dear little man, said the dragon solemnly, I've never fought in my life, and I'm not going to begin now. Just run down and make it all right. There's a dear chap. So the boy rushed back to the village and burst into the inn, where St. George was musing over his chances of winning. St. George, panted the boy, there's been a misunderstanding. This dragon is a good dragon. He's a friend of mine and tells the most beautiful story poems. Draw up a chair, said St. George. I like a fellow who sticks up for his friends, and I'm sure the dragon has his good qualities. But are you absolutely certain there isn't some hapless princess tied up within yonder gloomy cavern? I assure you, St. George, the boy said earnestly, there's nothing of the sort. The dragon is a real gentleman. Even if you're right, objected St. George, the rules say that the dragon and I have to fight. Well, why don't you at least meet the dragon for yourself and talk it over, suggested the boy. St. George thought for a moment. Well, it's irregular, he mused, but it sounds sensible. And off they strode together. The dragon woke with a start as the pair approached. This is St. George, introduced the boy. St. George, meet the dragon. So glad to meet you, St. George, began the dragon rather nervously. I've heard a lot about you. Now, dragon, said St. George pleasantly, let's come to a business-like arrangement. Why don't we just fight it out and let the best man win? But St. George, the dragon protested, the whole thing is nonsense. There's nothing to fight about. I'm simply not going to. If you try to make me, I shall just go into my cave and retire down a deep hole there until you get sick of sitting outside waiting for me. St. George gazed at the landscape around them. But this would be such a beautiful place for a fight, he implored. These great rolling hills for the arena, and me in my golden armor against your blue scaly coils? Think what a picture it would make. Well, I suppose it would, the imaginative dragon agreed, wavering. I could spear you somewhere it wouldn't hurt. Under these folds of thick skin on your neck, for instance. You would never even know I had done it, declared St. George. Then afterwards, I would lead you to the marketplace. I'd explain that you've seen the error of your ways, and so on. And then there would be the usual banquet. Well, said the dragon, I suppose I'm bored up here, and I would indeed like to go into society, so... Right, that's settled, said the boy, winking at St. George, who took the hint and rose to go. I'll even try to breathe fire, the dragon said. It's surprising how easily one gets out of practice, but I'll do the best I can. Good night. Early next morning, people began streaming up into the hills in their Sunday clothes, carrying picnic baskets, intent on securing good places for the spectacle. The boy went to sit in the front, well up towards the cave, anxious that the dragon might change his mind and not show up. Presently, cheering and waving of handkerchiefs told the boy that St. George was coming. Very gallant, he looked on his war horse, his golden armor glinting in the sun, his great spear held tall, its white flag with a red cross fluttering. St. George halted his horse and then remained motionless, while the spectators watched in breathless expectation. Now then, dragon, muttered the boy, fidgeting, but he need not have worried. A low growling, mingled with snorts, rose to a bellowing roar. Then an impressive cloud of smoke obscured the mouth of the cave, and out of it the dragon came splendidly forth. Ooh! Everyone gasped. His blue scales glittered, his long spiky tail lashed, his claws tore up the turf, and smoke and fire shot from his nostrils. "Oh, wilderness dragon," said the boy quietly to himself. Didn't think he had it in him. With both the contestants present, the battle began. St. George lowered his spear, dug his heels into his horse's sides, and came thundering over the grass as the dragon charged with a roar. There was a moment's entanglement of golden armor with blue coils and spiky tail, and then the great horse, chomping at his bit, carried the saint clear. "Incredible!" yelled the villagers. How well they managed that, thought the boy. St. George steadied his horse and wiped his brow. Catching sight of the boy, he smiled and nodded. Then he hefted his spear and again galloped towards the dragon, who crouched at his approach, cracking his tail like a whip. The saint wheeled as he neared his opponent, and the dragon rose onto his hind legs. The end was so swift that all the boy saw was a mess of golden armor, spines, claws, and flying turf. The dust cleared. The spectators cheered, and the boy saw that the dragon was pinned to the ground by the spear St. George astride him. The boy ran towards them breathlessly, hoping the dear old dragon wasn't really hurt. As he approached, the dragon lifted one large eyelid, winked slowly, and shut it again. "Ain't you going to cut its head off, master?" asked one of the applauding crowd. He had bet on the dragon to win, and naturally felt a trifle annoyed. "There's no hurry," replied St. George pleasantly. "Let's all go down to the village and have some refreshment." He released the dragon, who rose and shook himself and ran his eye over his spikes and scales to see that they were all in order. Then St. George mounted his horse and led him away in the company of the boy, with the cheering spectators following at a respectful distance behind. Back in the village, everyone crowded round in front of the inn to hear St. George give a speech. He told his audience that he had removed the source of their woe, that the dragon had been thinking things over and didn't want to be their enemy anymore, but would like to stay and settle down. He told them that they must all make friends, and the villagers weren't to go thinking they had got troubles, because they hadn't. Besides, next time they would have to do the fighting themselves. Then he sat down amid much cheering. The dragon nudged the boy in the ribs and whispered that he couldn't have said it better himself. Finally, the banquet was prepared and the feasting began. What fun was had by all! St. George was happy because there had been a fight, and yet he hadn't had to kill anybody. The dragon proved to be delightful company and was the life and soul of the party. And the boy was happy because his two friends were on the best of terms, and all the villagers were happy too. As midnight approached, the guests began to drop away with many good nights and congratulations and invitations, and the dragon meandered out into the street, followed by the boy and the saint. The dragon gazed up at the stars. "Jolly night it's been," he murmured. And they set off up the hill arm in arm, the dragon, the boy, and the saint.